Is there any hypothesis why people can, well, successfully optimize in such a setting?
People, and we've shown that in many other connections as well, that people have a tendency to do what we call adaptive search. So if you perform really well, so imagine that you are playing this game and you score a really good, you cool down a lot of atoms, let's say 1.5 million, and then in your next attempt, you will do a small modification. That's what our results show. That people who do well, they have a tendency to then be local, a bit conservative, of saying, I'm apparently in a good place here, let me just do some small modifications. While in contrast, if you're doing really poorly, let's say you were like second last on this leaderboard and then you were just like really not cooling down any atoms, you would in the next attempt do a big change. You would try out something dramatically different. You can sort of relate this to if you're cooking something. You have a recipe and you are following it and it turns out that it tasted great. You had guests over and they're all really fond of it. The next time you might do some small tweaks because you still think you can optimize and perfect it. But it's going to be small adaptations. You're not going to like really fundamentally do something completely different. While in contrast, if you had guests over and they were polite, but they actually should have said that this was really, really bad. Well, the next time you're not going to do a small tweak because apparently you're just doing something completely different. So people, we adjust and adapt our behavior based on feedback. And that's in the game, in cooking, and if you're a business, it's a very sort of broad finding. But what that actually then leads to is when you have a collective of people where some optimize on the current best and others try out completely new things, you have a very efficient collective search algorithm because you're both optimizing on the current best and you're trying out new things. So without every single individual knowing it, we just have these tendencies of adapting our behavior that this leads to a very effective search algorithm. And that's really that's sort of one element of the main finding that we have, is that how individuals adapt their search. But the second related part, and what's really unique about this setup is, again, imagine that you have 10 cooks that try to do a meal in a room and they can see what each other are doing and they can maybe copy what each other are doing. If you had these 10 people in the same room, it would be really difficult for me as a scientist to track, is number 3 copying number 7, because he might be looking in that direction, but it's really difficult to trace people's behavior. Here we had an opportunity where we could like 100% closely trace, is number 3 clicking on number 7 solution, clicking copying that, and then adapting that further. So we can really track people behavior. And what we then saw was that people don't just do this adaptive search on their own solutions, but also if I am the second best, I'm still not the best. I'm the second best, your solution is the best. I copy yours, but since there's no point in submitting the exact same solution again, I do modifications, but again, I do small modifications. It's as if I'm in a mindset of, I'm doing good right now, let me just do some minor stuff. Well, if I'm way behind, I copy the same solution, I copy your solution, but then I will do a big change. So apparently people in this sort of collective setting engage in this kind of social learning. We as human beings, we don't just copy other people. It's like if I see a great recipe out there, I might sort of use it, but I'll adapt it.
So we're not pure we're not pure copy pasters. We just
we
adapt it always slightly, a little bit, and
exactly. We like to sort of, human beings, we have a tendency to like to sort of put our own angle on it. And how much we adapt apparently depends on where we're coming from. So we've copied the same solution, and then before we submit it, the changes we do, the extent of the changes we do, they depend on where we're coming from.
So how well we did, or
how well we did before. So this of course changes over time, because if I was doing poorly, come up with a great solution, then I'm in a different place. Then I'm in a place where I do small modifications.